Asinibingelele maswati lamahle sinemukele lapha ke eMandvulo Grand Hall ligama lami ngikhanyisile mabuza kanti ke lomuhla sengilo lilanga lelikhulu layo iSACU Summit yesiphohlongo le banjelwe khona la eHeaven la kaNgwane sebafikile ke baholi babohulumende nemavele ehlukahlukene kufaka ekhathi iNingizimu Afrika njengoba mengameli Cyril Ramaphosa sekakhona lokusho kona ukuthi umsebenzi usotawuqala khona manje madvutane kanti ke yona inhlangano yakaSACU ngiyinhlangano lebukwenza batekuthengiselana kwawo lamave lasihlanu kuyo ke yona ke Southern African Customs Union kanti ke ngakanzi kakhulu asivele singene kuwo umsebenzi.
At this time, Your Majesty, Excellencies, I would like to make formal introductions of all the heads of state that are in our midst here today. If you allow me and to manage our time, I will go through the whole list, and at the end of the list, we shall all appreciate them with a very strong round of applause. We are privileged to have in our midst His Majesty King MSWATI III, the King of the Kingdom of Eswatini, who is the current chairman of SACU. We are also privileged to have in our midst His Excellency, the President of the Republic of South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa in our midst. It is also a privilege to acknowledge and recognize the presence of the Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Lesotho, His Excellency Sam Matekane. We are also happy to acknowledge the presence of the Prime Minister of Namibia, who is here representing the President of Namibia, Her Excellency Sarah Kugongelwa. We are also happy to recognize the presence of the Minister of Investments, Trade and Industry in Botswana, who is here representing the President of Botswana, who could not make it to this summit, Minister Musi Gafela. We would also love to recognize the presence of the new Executive Secretary of SACU, Mr. Thabo David Kasipe. Also to recognize the current chairman of the SACU Council of Ministers, the Minister of Finance in Eswatini, Minister Neil Reichenberg. Last but not least, to recognize the Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Eswatini, His Excellency Cleopas Dlamini. Some of the local protocol, you will have to excuse me today because this is a SACU meeting, so please don't get offended if I don't mention you. It is an honor and a privilege for me to have to invite President Cyril Ramaphosa to give us his address at this SACU summit. Your Excellency.
Heads of states and government gathered here, the Executive Secretary of SACU, members of the SACU Secretariat, members of Parliament present here, ministers and deputy ministers in our presence, officials and ladies and gentlemen, and also welcoming Professor Ricardo Hausmann for his most inspiring and forward-looking speech and input about the prospects of our region in SACU. Thank you very much for those wonderful words. Program Director, your reference to the technological glitches that we experienced and assuring us that it's not linked to load shedding was wonderful, but it hurt a little bit. Your Majesty and ladies and gentlemen, we are meeting at a time when many seismic shifts are taking place in the global economy. Just as countries were beginning to recover in the aftermath of COVID-19, the global economy was further and has been further weakened by the Russia-Ukraine conflict and the geopolitical contestation that is underway. As the UN Conference on Trade and Development noted earlier this year, food and energy crises, surging inflation, debt tightening, and the climate emergency are all contributing to one of the lowest rates of global economic growth in decades. As the Southern African Customs Union, it is critical that we fulfill our mandate if we are indeed to withstand these global shocks and mitigate their impact on our respective countries. And Professor Hausmann's input should give us guidance and inspiration to do precisely that. Our union, that is SACU, is the oldest customs union in the world, having been founded in 1910. The SACU agreement has undergone several changes and improvements over the years to better reflect the prevailing political and economic environment in which we live in. We have always been deliberate about using this union as a vehicle for advancing and deepening integration amongst our nations. We are working to achieve this integration through cooperation in trade and industrial policies. We seek to build cross-border value chains amongst all SACU member states and that this should be underpinned by regional infrastructure programs. The question for us is, to what extent have we been successful in this regard? And is SACU still fit for purpose and able to respond effectively to the needs of member countries? The geopolitical and economic shifts that are taking place across the world do necessitate that we must be quite intentional about what we hope to achieve as SACU. And it is in this regard, Your Majesty and heads of government and state, that Professor Hausman's words should land on fertile ears, because they are quite instructive about what the future could portend for our union, and indeed for our region, the Southern African Development Community. We must be quite deliberate when it comes to playing a developmental role in the region, on the continent, as well as globally. At the recent summit for a new global financing pact in Paris, as referred to by a program director, as Africa, it was not one voice, it was a number of voices, and we as Africans spoke with one voice, but same message about the need for industrialized countries to meet their commitments to developing country economies. Nearly all countries present agreed on the need for the reform of the multilateral development and financial institutions. Some of these institutions, like the Bretton Woods institutions, were established post the Second World War, when many of our countries were neither independent nor free. Ultimately, we strive for a world order that accommodates developing economy countries by having rules in respect of access to capital, respect of sovereignty, and the right to develop our industries, and also the right to be included in the decisions that are taken in these institutions that must of necessity be transformed so as to serve purposes of all and not a few countries. The SACU strategic plan, adopted in June of 2022, is the foundational document that executes the aspirations of SACU. We must work to deepen regional integration in the customs union, and also to deliberately forge stronger ties amongst the 5 member states. South Africa believes that spatial development initiatives, industrialization, and an industrialization that should be underpinned by the new green economies or subsectors of the economies that are emerging.
Excellencies, we are now approaching the close of this particular session, but the chairman of SACU, His Majesty King MSWATI III, the King of Eswatini, will now take to the podium and deliver his official statement. And with that, shall I invite the room to rise to our feet as we welcome His Majesty. bayithi wena waphakathi.
Your Excellency Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa, President of the Republic of South Africa, the Right Honorable Samuel Tsokoane Matakane, Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Lesotho, the Right Honorable Prime Minister of the Republic of Namibia, Sarah Kukwenda Amahila, representing His Excellency the President of Namibia, a representative of His Excellency Mokwetsi Erike Kebetswe Masisi, President of the Republic of Botswana, Emma Koskati, Your Royal Highnesses Prime Minister, SACU Executive Secretary, Chairperson of SACU Council of Ministers, all honorable ministers and members of SACU councils, members of SACU Commission and other senior officials, distinguished invited guests, members of the diplomatic corps, ladies and gentlemen, sinvusele nonke lapha bekunene. It is with great honor that we welcome you all to the Kingdom of Eswatini on the occasion of the 8th Summit of the Southern African Customs Union SACU Heads of State and Government. On behalf of Eswatini, we are pleased to host you all here once again following the 5th SACU Summit that was held here in June 2017. Allow me to especially welcome the Right Honorable Samuel Tsokoane Matakena, Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Lesotho, who is attending the summit for the first time. The importance of SACU cannot be overemphasized, as it plays a major role in development of our respective countries. We are pleased that we are here. We are currently experiencing positive developments in the collection of SACU receipts, which will contribute immensely to the social and economic development of our countries. As Eswatini, we are happy that during our chairmanship, all member states realized a windfall in our SACU receipts. We need to maintain these positive results and standards to increase the returns even more. The country's receipts increased by a significant share of 102% when compared to the previous year. It is the first time seeing such high returns. Contributing to this positive growth was the higher than projected outturn of the 2021-22 common revenue pool, together with the 25% increase in the projected size of the CRP for 2023-24 compared to 2022 to 2023 financial year. The increase in Eswatini's share of total intra-SACU imports from 9.6% in the revenue sharing framework for 2022 to 2023 to 10.8% in 2023 to 2024 was also a contributing factor. Indeed, the measures that our Minister of Finance has been implementing in order to enhance intra-SACU imports have started paying off. This has come about regardless of the difficulties faced by our economies brought about by global challenges such as the COVID-19 pandemic. We are also delighted to see the tremendous work that has been done under the Trade Facilitation Program, which will advance the SACU regional integration agenda. The launch of the Authorized Economic Operators Program in the various SACU member states marks a greater milestone. As SACU member states, we should work towards seamlessly borders where goods move from one country to another without delays at our points of entry. The program also helped to fast-track controls and the reduction in administration cost for customs clearance. We anticipate seeing fewer delays in shipments, reduced theft and losses of goods, just to mention a few. As Eswatini, we are very pleased with such developments and thank all those who were responsible for carrying out the new architecture of declaring of goods at point of entry. This has come at an opportunity time when the continent is working towards trading under one umbrella of the African Continental Free Trade Area. The positive implementation of this initiative to make it more effective needs programs that can be as successful as SACU. We do realize that the vehicles of trade such as SACU were not built in one day, but we trust that they will be developed gradually, leading to a day when we can all say Africa is now trading effectively. We also need to bring forth and share other success stories under SACU to motivate best practices that can be adopted by the AFCFTA to boost intra-Africa trade. The SACU success story follows on the footsteps of other positive economic developments in Eswatini, which has been recognized by the World Bank as one of the top 5 growing economies, with our GDP growth at 7.43% in 2021. We've also been ranked number 2nd when it comes to manufacturing value added per capita in the African continent, while ranking 6th in the Africa Industrialization Index 2022. The Kingdom is also proud to have become one of the 2 countries that have successfully met the AIDS global targets of 95-95-95, marking our commitment to ending HIV/AIDS. Your Excellencies, we are here to deliberate on key issues concerning SACU, with a view to providing the necessary political and strategic guidance to our institution. We have seen this organization grow from strength to strength, moving in the right direction. As members, we have an obligation to nurture this child of ours, and where there are challenges, we need to sit down and find amicable solutions. This is particularly important at this time as SACU works on the implementation of its recently approved strategic plan 2022-2027 in the midst of the recent global developments, which are having a significant impact on our economies. In our last summit, we reflected on how the COVID-19 pandemic had drastically changed our lives. The conflict between Russia and Ukraine had started, and we were at that stage already experiencing its impact on our economies. We remain optimistic that an amicable settlement will be reached given the negative impact and spillover effects which continue to constrain the global economic growth prospects and threaten food security. It is for this reason that we wish to take this opportunity to commend the African Leaders Initiative led by South African President Cyril Ramaphosa to broker peace in Russia-Ukraine conflict. As SACU leaders, we align ourselves with these efforts and extend our full support as we believe that it will bring about meaningful and lasting peace. Your Excellencies, in view of the global outlook and risks, SACU as a region needs to assess and reflect on this risk and on how best to effectively manage and mitigate against them to elicit opportunities for action and collaboration. We will engage and deliberate further on these emerging global developments and their impact on the SACU economies during our summit. In the midst of competing regional arrangements, SACU needs to step forward and as enshrined in the SACU mission to serve as an engine for regional integration and development, industrial and economic diversification, the expansion of intra-regional trade and investment and global competitiveness. In conclusion, we urge all delegates to be focused on the growth and sustainability of SACU by finding other ways of improving this facility by promoting increased trade. As member countries, we need to encourage regional value chains across various sectors, such as in vehicle manufacturing, where the production of different components of a vehicle can be distributed across several member countries and assembled in one. This will add impetus to our regional goal of integration while enhancing our trade output and growing the SACU pool. Let us use the current momentum to develop SACU and ensure that the pool grows for the benefit of our economies for future generations. As member countries, we all need to play our part for a sustainable future of our institution. We appreciate the support and cooperation that has been rendered to the Kingdom of Eswatini during our term as the chair of the institution of SACU. We will equally continue supporting all its planned initiatives after our term ends. We congratulate the Executive Secretary for assuming his new position, and we are confident that he will steer our organization to greater heights. Your Excellencies and distinguished delegates, we hope you have already experienced the true Eswatini hospitality since your arrival and enjoyed your time at the different places of tourism interest in the kingdom. Your Excellency, I now have the singular honor to declare the 8th Summit of the SACU Heads of State and Government officially open and wish you successful and enriching deliberations. I thank you. May God Almighty bless us all. Siyabonga.
bayithe when waphakathi.
Ngalo ke masadla amahle sasifika emaphethelweni yawo ke umsebenzi wokuvula ngalokusemthethweni kweSACU Summit yeminyaka wa 2023. Ngithemba ukuthi kuvakele konke lokukhulunyiwe nginto ke tikhulumi letfaka khathi silo semhlaba lesinguye ke sihlalo wayo inhlangano yaka SACU. Naye ke mengameli welive laseNingizimu Afrika Cyril Ramaphosa ikakhulu naye ke Professor Houseman lochamuka lapha eHarvard University lovetile ukuthi uma ke lamave la ngemalunga ayo yeSACU angahlanganisa imicondo kanye ke naloko lokukhona phecelezi ama resources bangakwadi ukukhicita lokukhulu bese bakha imali lenyenti. Sema ukuthi nikuthokozele ukubukela nisaleni kahle.